Hello and welcome to our webinar, Must Read Mysteries. I'm Donna Seaman, editor of adult books at Booklist. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom an hour ago. To download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists, so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all our webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned above. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. Right, so today we have the great pleasure of hearing from Carl Smith, commissioning editor at Severn House, Rachel Mann, marketing coordinator at Penguin Random House Library Marketing, Kendra Martin, sales and marketing manager at Dundurn Press, and Susannah Ames, marketing and publicity director at ECW Press, and Lisa Daly, director of marketing and publicity at Oceanview Publishing. What a great group. Thanks everyone for being here. And first, we hear from Carl Smith. Carl is a commissioning editor at Severn House, an imprint of Canongate Books, where he acquires genre fiction, mysteries, thrillers, cozies, science fiction, fantasy. Carl lives and works in London, England, but his list comprises primarily US-based authors. During his time with Severn House, Carl has acquired Agatha and Anthony award-winning authors. His list includes G.M. Moliere, Katrina Mcpherson, Xiaolong, Elaine Viets, and many more. Carl can be contacted at carl@severnhouse.com. Thanks for being here today, Carl.
Hi, everyone. This is Grace from Booklist. It looks like we just lost Carl. I'm so sorry. If you'll bear with us for one moment, we'll try to get him back online.
Thank you, Grace. Well, sometimes things work perfectly and sometimes they don't. We'll give it a minute, and then if we have to reorder our program, we will. Thanks for your patience. Okay, thanks for holding on. We're reconnecting. I hear this happen on National Public Radio and the BBC all the time. And did I say that Carl is in London, where it's the night, I think?
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I got disconnected right as Donna was introducing me. But yes, Donna, I am in London at this moment in time. hence internet connection issues across the pond, I guess. I have no idea. But thank you for the introduction, which sadly I missed, but I'll get on with my titles and get everyone waiting. So, as Don said, I'm a commissioning editor with Severn House. For my first titles, I'll be transporting us back into the past with two historical novels. To start off, we're heading off to 7th century China with The Shadow of the Empire by Xiaolong, which is now on screen. An interesting fact about this book is that although it is very much a standalone, it has its genesis in Inspector Chen and the Private Kitchen Murder, which was the previous book, Severn published by the author. In that novel, the character of Inspector Chen writes a book as part of an investigation, and The Shadow of the Empire is the offshoot of that. So we're going very meta with this book. In The Shadow of the Empire, the legendary Judge Di, who is a real figure from China, is ordered by senior officials to explore a seemingly open shut case in which a courtesan has admitted to killing her maid. But there are rumors of a mystical black fox lurking outside the courtesan's home, which is bad luck in those parts, and others connected with the case keep dying despite the main killer being in jail. Xiaolong is an Anthony Award-winning author, and more than 2 million copies of his Inspector Chen books have been sold worldwide, and the majority of these books have also been dramatized by BBC Radio 4. From here, we're jumping to the 15th century with the next slide, which is Dark Queen Watching by Paul Dahati. The novel is set during the 16th year of the Wars of the Roses, so we're only halfway through, so we've got plenty of content for the next installments of the series. That Queen Watching is book 3 in the Margaret Beaufort mystery series. Margaret was the mother of Henry Tudor, who was the future King Henry VII. In this book, he's currently exiled in France. So again, something to come down the line. In this deeply atmospheric, kind of elegantly written dive into medieval England, a series of mysterious incidents threaten to bring Margaret's house kind of crumbling to the ground. And that includes a visitor to Margaret's home dying within a locked room within her bedroom. So fans of the Cadfael books by Peter Ellis or C.J. Sampson's Shadlick series will enjoy this classic historical locked room mystery. On the next slide, we are jumping from our historicals to 3 female sleuth novels, and the first is Scott Mist by Katrina Mcpherson. Fans of Janet Ivanovich and Sarah Stormeyer will enjoy this series. In 2020, we published Scott on the Rocks, along with digital editions of the first 2 entries, which were Scott Free as well as Scott and Soda. The series follows Lexi Campbell, who is Scottish and hence the Scot from all the titles, as she navigates American life living on a houseboat moored to the Last Ditch Motel. Here, the motel is under attack from a mysterious assailant whom might well be amongst their midst. But with a motel full of strangers, who could it be? Katrina is an Agatha, Anthony, Lefty, and McCavity award-winning author. Her last-ditch mystery novels are full of traditional British wry humor, mixed together with that Californian sun and the clashing of cultures, basically. These books are downright hilarious thanks to that clashing of cultures, and they have a great award pedigree. On the next slide, we have Gone Missing by Peggy O'Neill Peden. This is a humorous whodunit series starring Campbell Hale, who is a warm-hearted but very, very nosy travel agent who is surprised and terrified when her friend doesn't return from a Mexican vacation. Wanting to find out what happened, Campbell grabs her unwitting boyfriend, who is a detective, and off they trot from Nashville to Zuartaneo to find answers. Sadly, Andy Dufresne and Ellis Redding don't get a cameo in this book, and I really hope people get that reference, or I probably sound like a fool. But anyway, Gone Missing is the second entry in the Nashville mystery series. The first entry, Your Killing Heart, won the Malice Domestic Best First Traditional Mystery Novel Award. And Booklist themselves said that fans of Diane Mott Davidson and Donna Andrews will enjoy this series. Next, and our final female sleuth entry is Wendy Corsi Style with Pros and Cons. This is the fourth entry in the heartwarming Lily Dale mystery series, starring Bella Jordan, who is a young widow living in New York. Bella and her son Max live in Lily Dale, which is a very unique place where inhabitants can speak to the dead. Despite it being set in NYC, this has the feel of a small town mystery. Booklist compared the feel of this novel to the Hallmark Channel's The Good Witch in that sense. Here there's a mix of psychic mediums, romance, lots of charm and warmth in here, and it will appeal to fans of Nancy Atherton's limited series. And Wendy is a New York Times bestselling author. From our female sleuths, we are moving on to thrillers for the next slide. And we have Unsafe Haven by Lucy Bedett. This is an emotionally charged suspense novel. The subway isn't somewhere you stop and have a chat or even look people in the eye that you don't know. But in Unsafe Haven, the character of Elizabeth Brown does just that. She locks eyes with a 16-year-old Addison on the subway. Addison sees her chance and dumps a package into Elizabeth's arms, and it's a baby, and people are out to get it, and they'll do whatever it takes to snatch it and find out where Addison is. So this novel asks, what would you do in that situation? Can Elizabeth walk away from the child, or does she try to protect it? For her Key West food critic mystery series, Lucy's been shortlisted for the Agatha, Anthony and McCavity Awards, and this is her first thriller novel. On the next slide, we have Pay or Play by Howard Michael Gould. Pay or Play is book 3 in the Charlie Waldo thriller series, which sees Charlie, who is a private art investigator, living a life of self-imposed isolation and penance, following a misstep on his previous case. In this fast-paced mystery, Charlie is drawn back into the city where he must deal with blackmail, sexual harassment, murder, and a missing dog. And I'm not saying the missing dog is the most important thing, but it's quite high up there. The first novel in the series, Last Looks, has been turned into a movie starring Mel Gibson and Charlie Hunnam, and is down for release soon. Fans of Tim Dorsey's Sedge Storm novels and Lucas Davenport thrillers by John Sanford will get a kick out of this book. From our thrillers, we are moving on to police procedurals. Our first is Palm's Paradise Poison by John Keyes Walker. This is the third entry in the Teddy Crick mystery series, set on an island in the Caribbean. Teddy is the only constable on the island, so this is pretty much a one-man band, which kind of brings a unique take on the police procedural series. During a hurricane, a dangerous Queen Yaya escapes from prison and is rumored to be able to kill by magic. But Teddy catches her, locks her in a cell, kind of dismisses her powers, and then, whoops, she suddenly manages to kill a man and disappear. So maybe shouldn't dismiss her so quickly. John Keyes Walker has won the Mystery Writers of America's First Crime Novel Award for the first book in the series. And this entry brings plenty of entertaining and appealing characters, lots of action, and an intriguing look at island life. From the beaches of the Caribbean to the beaches of the UK, on our next slide, we have Death in Cornwall by G.M. Moliere. G.M. Moliere is an Agatha Award-winning author. Death in Cornwall is book 4 in the St. Just mystery series, starring Cambridge-based DCI Arthur St. Just. In this entry, St. Just and his fiancée escape to a sleepy village of Maidstone in Cornwall for a quiet holiday with no murder. And you could probably guess how that turns out. The village is at each other's throats, as someone turns up dead. There isn't much of a police force, so St. Just takes on responsibility of solving the crime because he was the one who found the body. This is a wickedly funny cozy full of English warmth and humor, and Library Journal and Booklist compared this series to classics of this kind of genre, such as Dorothy Sayers and Edmund Crispin. On our next slide, we are staying in the UK and actually go to my hometown of Hull. So David brings the northeast English city of Hull to dark, brutal life in this gripping novel in the critically acclaimed D.S. McAvoy series. This is perfect for fans of Val McDermid and Peter Robinson. The series has received countless starred reviews, with one review saying to call Mark's novels procedurals is like calling the Mona Lisa a pretty painting, which is a great quote. I love that quote. In this entry, DC Hector McAvoy is transported back to a case from 12 years prior when he was just starting out on the first. So it's taking all his past and bring it to the future, and he must basically face his demons to solve his current case. And on our last slide, we have a very long time author with us, which is Cynthia Harold Eagles with Dying Fall. Dying Fall is the 23rd novel in the DCI Bill Slider series. So this is another gripping entry in that series, and it's showing no signs of stopping. It seems like a simple accident that DC Bill and his team have to solve because they just find a woman dead at the bottom of the stairs. But upon closer inspection, it looks like there's more at play, but there's no witnesses, no murder weapon, and no one can even identify the victim. So all proves tricky to get going. So as with all the previous Bill Slider novels, this is intricately plotted, it's witty, and it's a hard-hitting British police procedural that fans of Deborah Crombie, John Harvey, and Peter Robinson will enjoy. So that is all from me. So I want to thank Booklist for their time, and I will pass you back to Donna, who will introduce our next speakers who hopefully don't have connection issues like me. So thank you once again, everyone, and enjoy your days and evenings.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Thanks for hanging in there during the disconnect. Well, I am very happy now to introduce Rachel Mann. Rachel is a marketing coordinator at Penguin Random House. After graduating with her MA in mass communications, she spent a year in academic publishing before joining the library marketing team at PRH. She loves creepy reads and thrillers of all kinds, but will never turn down a swoon-worthy romance. In her spare time, you can find Rachel binging SNL compilation videos and botching even the simplest recipes. Oh, I so relate. Take it away, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Donna. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm a big fan of dark literature myself. So I'm just going to jump right in and tell you all about these mysteries that we're so excited about. First up, we have The Hawthorne School by Sylvie Perry. This book is great for fans of Riley Sager. It's a twisty psychological suspense about the lengths one mother will go for her child, inspired by present-day obsession with cults and true crime. Claudia Morgan is overwhelmed. She's a single parent trying the best that she can, but her 4-year-old son, Henry, is a handful for her and for his school. When Claudia hears about a school with an atypical teaching style near her Chicagoland home, she has to visit. The Hawthorne School is beautiful and has everything she dreams of for Henry, and the head of the school, Zelma, will even let Claudia volunteer to cover the cost of tuition. The school is good for Henry. His behavioral problems disappear, and he comes home subdued instead of rageful. But there's something a bit off about the school, its cold halls and its enigmatic headmistress. When Henry brings home stories of ceremonies in the woods and odd rules, Claudia's instincts tell her that something isn't quite right, and she begins to realize she's caught in a web of manipulations and power. The authors work as a psychotherapist with a focus on narcissistic manipulation and addictive power dynamics, guides this exploration of a young mother wanting to do the best for her child. And our next novel, we have The Maid by Nita Prose. This is a very buzzy debut. It's receiving quite a bit of early interest about a charmingly eccentric hotel maid who discovers a guest murdered in his bed. Molly Gray is not like everyone else. She struggles with social skills and misreads the intentions of others. Her gran used to interpret the world for her, codifying it into simple rules that Molly could live by. But since Gran died a few months ago, 25-year-old Molly has been navigating life's complexities all by herself. No matter, she throws herself with gusto into her work as a hotel maid. But Molly's orderly life is upended the day she enters the suite of the infamous and wealthy Charles Black, only to find it in a state of disarray, and Mr. Black himself dead in his bed. Before she knows what's happening, Molly's unusual demeanor has the police targeting her as their lead suspect. She quickly finds herself caught in a web of deception, one she has no idea how to untangle, And will she be able to find the real killer before it's too late? This is a clue-like locked room mystery and a heartwarming journey of the spirit. The Maid explores what it means to be the same as everyone else and yet entirely different. Next up, we are highlighting the Shady Hollow Mystery Series, which is perfect for lovers of cozy series. The first book in the series, in which we are introduced to the village of Shady Hollow, a place where woodland creatures live together in harmony until a curmudgeonly toad turns up dead and the local reporter has to solve the case. The second book in the series is where some long buried secrets come to light, throwing suspicious on a beloved local denizen. And the third novel features the most challenging case yet, solving the murder of a rat who appears to still be alive. Next up, we have The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson, where 3 generations of abused women must navigate their chilling new reality as a mysterious epidemic of violence sweeps the nation in this compelling novel of self-discovery, legacy, and hope. When Chelsea Martin kisses her husband hello at the door of their perfect home, a chilled bottle of beer in hand and dinner on the table, she may look like the ideal wife, mother, and homemaker. But if family time doesn't go exactly the way David wants, bad things happen to Chelsea and to the couple's 17-year-old daughter, Ella. Cut off from all support, controlled and manipulated for years, Chelsea has no resources and no one to turn to. But the facade crumbles when a mysterious condition overtakes the nation. Known as the violence, it causes the infected to experience sudden, explosive bursts of animalistic rage and attack anyone in their path. The ensuing chaos brings opportunity for Chelsea and inspires a plan to liberate herself and her family once and for all. This is great for fans of the Thursday Night Murder Club, perfect for fans of Wanderers, The Stand, and The Passage. All right, next up, we have The Verifiers by Jane Peck. Here we introduce Claudia Lynn, a sharp-witted amateur sleuth for the 21st century. This debut novel follows Claudia as she verifies people's online lives and lies for a dating detective agency in New York City, until a client with an unusual request goes missing. Claudia is used to disregarding her fractious family's model minority expectations. She has no interest in finding either a conventional career or a nice Chinese boy. She's also used to keeping secrets from them, such as that she prefers girls, and that she's just been stealth recruited by Veracity, a referrals-only online dating detective agency. A lifelong mystery reader who wrote her senior thesis on Jane Austen, Claudia believes she's landed her ideal job. But when a client vanishes, Claudia breaks protocol to investigate and uncovers a maelstrom of personal and corporate deceit. Part literary mystery, part family story, The Verifiers is a clever and incisive examination of how technology shapes our choices and the nature of romantic love in the digital age. And it's great for fans of detective romps looking for a racially diverse and queer perspective. Next up, we have The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, where a true crime blogger gets more than she bargained for while interviewing the woman acquitted of 2 cold case slayings in this chilling new novel from the New York Times bestselling author of The Sundown Motel. In 1977, Clear Lake, Oregon, was shaken by the Lady Killer murders. 2 men, seemingly randomly, were murdered with the same gun with strange notes left behind. Beth Greer was the perfect suspect, a rich, eccentric 23-year-old woman seen fleeing one of the crimes. But she was acquitted and she retreated to the isolation of her mansion. In Oregon, 2017, Shay Collins is a receptionist, but by night she runs a true crime website, The Book of Cold Cases, a passion fueled by the attempted abduction she escaped as a child. When she meets Beth by chance, Shay asks her for an interview. To Shay's surprise, Beth says yes. They meet regularly at Beth's mansion, though Shay is never comfortable there. Items move when she's not looking, and she could swear she's seen a girl outside the window. The allure of learning the truth about the case from the smart, charming Beth is too much to resist, but even as they grow closer, Shay senses something isn't right. Is she making friends with a manipulative murderer, or are there other dangers lurking in the darkness of the Greer house? Next up, a new novel from Lisa Scottolini, a department favorite around here. We have What Happened to the Bennets. Jason Bennett is a suburban dad who owns his own court reporting business, but one night his life takes a horrific turn. He is driving his family home after his daughter's lacrosse game when a pickup truck begins tailgating them on a dark stretch of road. Suddenly, two men jump from the pickup and pull guns on Jason, demanding the car. Later that awful night, Jason and his family receive a visit from the FBI. The agents tell them that the carjackers were members of a dangerous drug trafficking organization, and now Jason and his family are in their crosshairs. The agents advise the Bennetts to enter the witness protection program right away, and they have no choice but to agree. But WITSEC was designed to protect criminal informants, not law-abiding families. Taken from all they know, trapped in an unfamiliar life, the Bennetts begin to fall apart at the seams. Then Jason learns a shocking truth and realizes that he has to take matters into his own hands. Next up, we have Bad Actors by Mcpherson, the Le Carre of the future, expands his world of bad spies with an even shadier cast of characters, the politicians, lobbyists, and misinformation agents pulling the levers of government policy. In London's MI5 headquarters, a scandal is brewing that could disgrace the entire intelligence community. The Downing Street super forecaster, a specialist who advises the Prime Minister's office on how policy is likely to be received by the electorate, has disappeared without a trace. Claude Whelan, who was once head of MI5, has been tasked with tracking her down. Over at Slow House, where Jackson Lamb presides over some of MI5's most embittered, demoted agents, the slow horses are doing what they do best and adding a little bit of chaos to an already unstable situation. There are bad actors everywhere, and they usually get their comeuppance before the credits roll. But politics is a dirty business, and in a world where lying, cheating, and backstabbing are the norm, sometimes the good guys can find themselves outgunned. Next up, I would love to highlight a new novel for fans of Erik Larsson's breathtaking thriller-like nonfiction. His latest novel, No One Goes Alone, is exclusively on audio, read by Julian Rin-Tut with an author's note read by Larsson himself. This audiobook original and the first ever work of fiction by Larsson is currently on sale and contains Larsson's trademark approach to nonfiction, but creates something new, a ghost story that is deeply grounded in history and available exclusively on audio because, as Larsson says, ghost stories are best told aloud. Next slide, please. And just quickly want to shout out some amazing virtual events that we have coming up in our team, our morning book buzz, our lunch and learn, which this November will be featuring cooking and baking for the holiday season, and our winter book and author festival. Our spring book and author festival was received so well, and we have the most incredible lineup of authors joining us this December, and we hope you will as well. So that's it for me. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you again to Donna. Have a great day.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. That was great. My head's spinning with all these books. And now for more from Kendra Martin. Kendra is the sales and marketing manager at Dundurn Press. Mysteries are one of her favorite genres to read. In particular, she enjoys British police procedurals and domestic thrillers. Thanks for joining us today, Kendra.
Oh, thanks, Donna. Thanks so much. It's good to be here, everyone. As Donna said, I'm from Dundurn Press in Toronto, and we publish a range of mystery series and standalone thrillers on our list. Today, I'm going to talk about 5 of our ongoing series, along with a new psychological thriller. Next. Our first series is a noir crime series about a rough and tumble retired professional killer, Candace, Don't Call Me Candy, star. Candace Starr is rude, independent, definitely alcoholic, bisexual, loyal to her tribe, and caustically funny. At the opening of her second outing in the series, Star Sign, the former contract killer is trading on her dark celebrity to keep her glass of whiskey full when her past comes knocking in the form of a previously unknown sister, half-sister. Candace Starr is jarred out of her drunken spiral to go in search of her missing mother in the Detroit mob. But infiltrating her own crime family may be her deadliest assignment yet. The Candace series is hard-boiled crime fiction with a dark feminine twist. It's great for fans of Marvel's Jessica Jones TV series or the readers of Wallace Strobe's Krista Stone novels and Sarah Paretsky's V.I. Warshawski novels. The stories are gritty and dark and action-filled and punctuated with a lot of dark humor. Candace Starr has been described as oddly charismatic by Booklist and a tough, deadly type who just might surprise you by Kirkus reviews. Star Sign is now available in trade paperback and ebook. Please email me if you'd like a review copy for this or any of the books I mentioned on the list. Next. We have The Day She Died, which is a mind-bending psychological thriller featuring an unreliable narrator, memory loss, and a whole whack of secrets and lies. After the thrilling opening of the story in which the protagonist, Eve Gold, is struck by a car and left with traumatic memory loss, the narrative slides back and forth between the past and the present, focusing on each of Eve's birthdays to uncover clues to the mysteries and uncertainties swirling around Eve's childhood. Why did Eve's best friend die? And where is Eve's father? What secrets are Eve's mother and grandmother keeping from Eve? Is Eve herself dangerous? Did she do something terrible that she's trying to repress? Eve's present-day brain damage leaves her and the reader very confused about what happened in her past, and the repressed memories start to surface, giving us slowly a picture of what happened. The tension and the plot devices are very similar to popular thrillers such as Sometimes I Lie by Alice Feeney or Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. While the style of the book is very similar to the film Memento and also the novel Elizabeth is Missing. I love the Publishers Weekly review, which called this a dreamy tale of sin and guilt. The Day She Died is available now in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook. Next, we have Lake Crescent, which is a cozy mystery set in the bizarre and fascinating world of mythical creature hunting. Think Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and so on. We're in rural, remote Newfoundland, where a legendary sea monster named Cressy is said to live in the dark, murky waters of a lake called Lake Crescent. This is the real legend that forms the backdrop of this mystery. Science journalist Laura Regan and her documentary crew come to the remote village to film an episode on the lake monster known by locals as Cressy, when their scientific exploration leads to the discovery of a dead body in the lake's depths. Ever curious in the nature of all amateur sleuths, Laura is driven to unearth long-buried secrets of the villagers to find the reason this person was murdered. So the Creature X series does an excellent job of blending science and skepticism along with paranormal intrigue in a cozy mystery package. The monsters in each book, Cressy in Lake Crescent, and in the first book, we have Bigfoot. They're always entertained as a possibility, but there is always a rational human explanation for the murder that happens. And it's always left with the intrigue of these mythical creatures still questioning at the book's end. This series takes Laura Regan and her documentary crew across the globe, filming different locales with mythical creatures, and they get caught up in murders as they go. The next book in the series, titled Umboy Island, takes us to Papua New Guinea and is set to release in April 2022. Lake Crescent itself is now available in trade paperback and ebook. Next, I'd like you to journey with me to an alternate version of 1930s Depression-era Manhattan. Midnight is a gritty, hard-boiled sci-fi mystery set in a different world where technological advances have enabled cheap robotic labor and wondrous innovations, but have also caused a great divide between the rich and the poor. They live in a very different world where there's the rich in the upper city, a world suspended above the ground that blocks out the sun for those less fortunate who are living in the lower city. Our jaded and flawed hero is Elias Roach, a former cop who was called in by the NYPD to investigate the murder of 4 politicians by an assassin using a rare and powerful weapon. As our ex-cop pursues the case in classic hard-boiled fiction way, the FBI are breathing down his neck and a relentless journalist is dogging his every move. And the pressure mounts for Elias and his robot partner to find the killer before midnight on New Year's Eve. The Walking Shadow series is all about hard-boiled action, and it's a great next read for fans of Jonathan Lethem, Philip K. Dick, or anyone who watched or read the Altered Carbon or Blade Runner movies. Midnight is available now in trade paperback, ebook, and audiobook. The 3rd book in the series, which is titled Dark All Day, is set to release in July of next year. Next, I'm going to share 2 police procedurals. And so the first one, we have Barbara Fradkin's The Devil to Pay, which is the 11th book in an ongoing series about exasperating, impetuous, maverick detective Michael Green of the Ottawa Police Force. He's been sidelined to desk duties and is off major crimes for now. And his daughter, a rookie patrol officer named Hannah in her 20s, is the focus of much of the story. Hannah is called in on patrol to a domestic disturbance at a family home, and she suspects spousal abuse, but can't prove it. When the father of the family turns up dead days later, Hannah is impelled to investigate the crime and be damned the consequences. She calls on her father, Michael Green, and her new connections in major crimes to bend the rules as much as possible so she can get justice for a family she feels responsible for. Barbara Fradkin's writing is informed by her years working as a psychologist, and she is fascinated with why people turn bad. In this mystery, we see how domestic abuse can create impossibly desperate situations for parents and their children. You can definitely recommend Barbara Fradkin's mysteries for readers who love Louise Penny, Peter Robinson, and Anne Cleves, and they definitely won't be disappointed by Barbara. The Devil to Pay will be available in trade paperback and ebook later in November 2021. You can request a review copy from Edelweiss or email me. Next and last, we have another police procedural. If you haven't yet met the master of the Quebec thriller, please meet Martin Michaud, who writes compelling, atmospheric, and very gritty police procedurals set in Montreal. Our haunted but talented detective, Victor Lessard, is a great next read for fans of Yo Nesbo's Harry Hole series. People who love their mysteries gritty, featuring a tortured hero, and more twists that you can really handle. So while investigating a domestic murder-suicide, Detective Victor Lessard begins to suspect that shadowy outsiders were involved in the crime. As he races to solve the puzzle, Victor is targeted by a secretive organization and haunted by a ghost from his past. Can the brilliant, brooding cop track down a diabolical killer before he strikes again? The Devil's Choir is the 3rd in a series of breakneck, gritty police thrillers praised by Peter Robinson for their twisty dual-strand plot that keeps you guessing. The Devil's Choir will be available in trade paperback and ebook on November 23rd, 2021. And next, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Please, if you're interested in hearing more from us, sign up for our monthly library newsletter. And just a reminder, if you want to receive digital galleys of any of these books, you can email me. My email's right there, or you can find us on NetGalley and Edelweiss. Thank you.
Wonderfully done. Thank you, Kendra. And now our next panelist is Susannah Ames. Susannah is ECW's marketing and publicity expert. She leads our team each season to market and promote a list of 25 and more books. When she isn't reading rom-coms, she's petting her cat Nim or sipping a glass of rosé. That all sounds great. Thanks for being here, Susannah.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. Okay, so we'll jump in. So I'm Susannah. I'm from ECW Press. We've been publishing all sorts of books, especially mystery and crime, for many years now. So I can dive into some of our titles we're excited to show you about today. Just a little bit about us. Fun fact, ECW nowadays it stands for Entertainment, Culture, and Writing, if you're wondering. People often are. So there you go, some of our three passions. And one thing I wanted to highlight today is that creating accessible content has become a growing priority for us, especially now. We've just been awarded Benetech's Global Certified Accessible certification. So that means that all of our digital content is now screen reader friendly, and it's part of our production process to have it be built up front to meet the needs of those who are unable to read standard print for various reasons. So that means that any ebooks that or audiobooks that are purchased from us will be accessible to a variety of patrons. We're really proud of that. So hoping to keep doing it and have even more of that sooner. Next up, okay, so now we can dive into some of our titles. So first up is the Mr. Big Sting. And what's fascinating to me is that the world just continues to be really obsessed with true crime more than ever. A few years ago, I would have sworn it hit a fever pitch. I was all in on the murderinos and everything, but no, I mean, new podcasts, television specials, movies coming out daily. So this is one of those books. This is a book that outlines the police procedure known as Mr. Big. This is a pretty controversial undercover police procedure, which is used to elicit confessions from suspects, typically in cold cases or cases that have been unsolved for a really long time. Basically, the way that it works is that police officers will create a fictitious persona that is literally called Mr. Big. And that person is ostensibly a head honcho in a large-scale criminal organization. And then they will approach the suspect and kind of attempt to play to their ego by telling them that Mr. Big would love to work with them and asking them to basically prove their chops by telling the whole story of a crime that they might have committed and, prove how tough they are and prove their willingness to work with this important crime boss. And then these convictions are recorded and used for, or these confessions are recorded and used for convictions. It's really fascinating, and it works a really shockingly high percentage of the time. So we learn about why it works so well, like the psychology behind it, why it's so good for getting killers to confess, but why it also sometimes gets confessions from innocent people and is a very controversial tactic for that reason. So we're talking about the history of it here. And I learned a lot, very interesting. Next up, we've got another true crime book. So this one is a classic true crime mob story. It's the product of the authors, who are two journalists. And over the course of 5 years, they met with a man named Andrew Scopa, who was a high-ranking mob man associated with the Rizzuto family. And they got confessions from him throughout the whole height of his influence. So he was one of the godfather Vito Rizzuto's, who was an international heroin trafficker, and a murderer. He was one of his closest confidants, and there's really nothing else out there like this that lifts the veil behind organized crime so personally. The fact that Andrew was still operating in the organization while he was confessing to Felix and Eric is pretty much unheard of. And he died, actually, Andrew Scopa died in October 2019. He was killed by his own crew. They ratted him out to his rivals, which is, as Tony Soprano would say, there's only one of two ways that this could end. So that's how it ended for Andrew. This is a pretty insider story. And again, I learned a lot. So this one's great too. And now we'll move on to some of our fiction. First up is Running from the Dead by Mike Knowles. So this one came out in 2020, but this book received a ton of starred reviews. And in general, this author receives a lot of starred reviews. We are very proud to be working with Mike Knowles. This is a standalone novel featuring a troubled private detective who's been searching for a missing child for years. And when it all ends tragically, he's pretty unable to cope with it. But when a chance for redemption appears in the form of a desperate note scrawled on a bathroom door, he's off on the chase again. So this is, Mike Knowles has also written a couple of series with some different detective characters, but this standalone novel in particular has been critically acclaimed back and forward. So we're really excited about this one and just bringing it back on your radar before the season. Next up, we've got the first two books in the Epitome Apartments mystery series. So the first one is The Adventures of Isabel, and the second is What's the Matter with Mary Jane? And this is a quirky, fresh, postmodern series. The protagonist is an unnamed and bisexual character, and she is a really interesting person who has a lot of quirks, and she pisses a lot of people off, and she's fun to follow around. It speaks to a slightly older female mystery reader. This is a middle-aged protagonist, and her friends are of very interesting sorts. So in the second one, we're watching her beautiful and enigmatic friend Pris from her childhood, who she breezes back into her life after several decades of dealing with a violent assault. And our amateur sleuth main character has on the case to figure out who's after her and why she's back in town. So most of the main characters in this novel are queer, and the author identifies as queer. So it's just a little bit of a different diversity perspective in the mystery genre, which is always good to see. Next up, we have Under an Outlaw Moon by Dietrich Kaltheis. This one is, perfect for readers of that classic genre. Dennis Lehane, Elmore Leonard. He's been compared to Elmore Leonard multiple times. And this one just got a starred review from Publishers Weekly, calling it a delightful treat for historical crime fiction enthusiasts. So this takes place in Depression-era Middle America. We've got our two characters, Ben and Stella, newlyweds. They're in love, but they've fallen on tough times, and so they decide to rob a bank. Quickly, they top the FBI's most wanted list, and now they have to go on the run. So we've got to follow them on the road. Next up, we have the Joan Kilbourne Mystery Series by Gail Bowen. So these are the two latest books, and the latest one, Image in a Lake, is actually the 20th book in the series. So this has been going around for a while. It's a cozy mystery series featuring the same amateur sleuth, Joan Shreve. Very charismatic. Gail Bowen fans are fiercely loyal. They adore her. She loves doing virtual book clubs, and they're really well attended, especially on Facebook. And that is something that is so nice to see. Her fans do things like send rhubarb jam and quilted blankets, and it's a delightful community all around. This is two books by Anna Porter. The first one is The Appraisal. The second one is The Deception. So that's the most recent one. This is a savvy art world thriller with a strong, independent heroine who is witty and sophisticated. It's been nominated for the Staunch Prize, which is, if you're not familiar with that one, it is an award for a thriller in which no woman is beaten, stalked, sexually exploited, raped, or murdered, which is hard to find in a lot of these books in this genre. It features the former Budapest cop Attila Feher, who finds himself sucked into the dangerous underworld of organized crime, and he has to seek the help of art expert Helena Marsh, who is our protagonist. It's very richly atmospheric. You will want to go on vacation when you read these books. It takes place in Strasbourg, Budapest, Paris, all over, and the cities are just depicted with such glamour and elegance. They're really fun to read. Next up, we have The Keening by Anne Emery, and she is the award-winning author of the Collinsburg Mystery Series, but she has written a one-off, really thrilling dual timeline tale set in the gorgeous Irish countryside. So in 16th century Ireland, we're following a lavish banquet at the Maguire Castle, and the murdered body of Sorcha the prophetess is discovered. So the narrative starts to flip back and forth between the investigation that followed that murder in the 16th century and the present day, and where a dig is going on that same land. And a sheaf prophecies is discovered. And we've got a couple who is trying to run a B&B on the land, and they just can't piece together what happened. So this one is another one where you're going to get a really good sort of background scenery, and you're going to want to visit Ireland for sure. And I'll also mention quickly that Anne Emery is mostly known for her Collinsburg Mystery Series, which is Anne's longest running series, multi-award winning. Postmark Berlin is pictured there, but there's more than 20 books at this point. It's centered around two main characters. They've been described as endearingly flawed. We've got Monty Collins, a criminal defense lawyer who has seen and heard it all. And we've got Father Brennan Burke, who is a worldly, hard-drinking, Irish-born priest. So the Collinsburg series is another one that's been around for a long time and has some pretty devoted fans. And that's mostly what she's known for. So The Keening is a bit of a departure for her with her historical fiction, but it's been really well received so far. And we're excited to be with her on this journey into something new. So that is it for us. If you want to check out more, we've got full catalogs on our Edelweiss and our Catalyst pages. We've also got a library newsletter, which you can sign up for. We have review copies that go out in that newsletter regularly, but you can also just email me if anything on this Q&A or webinar was interesting. I'm happy to send ARCs to anything. Thanks so much. And thanks for Donna and Grace for helping us out. Really appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Susannah. That was wonderful. I'd love to go to Ireland right now. All right, on to our final presenter, Lisa Daly. Lisa is the Director of Publicity and Marketing at Oceanview Publishing, an independent publisher of mystery, thrillers, and suspense. Thanks for being here, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Donna, thanks for the awesome welcome. As she mentioned, Oceanview Publishing is publishers of mystery, a thriller, and suspense. That's all we do, and we love it, love it, love it. So I am very excited to bring you our fall mysteries. So if we could just pop on over to the first slide, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. So our first title I want to talk about today is The Necklace. This is the first book that we have done with Matt Whitten. It actually came out about a month ago at the beginning of September. But I want to tell you about this book because it has just gone gangbusters. It's been out for a month. We are about to go into a second printing. It's a fantastic story about a small town down and out waitress named Susan Lentigo, and she is absolutely determined to make her way from upstate New York to North Dakota. And the reason for her trip is that she is going to witness the execution of the man who murdered her daughter 20 years ago. But there's a rub. What she finds along the way is that he may not have been the murderer after all, and she feels compelled to make sure that she catches the true killer of her daughter. Matt Whitten, the author, is a really well-known TV writer, and this definitely reads like a movie. He is a screenwriter for House, Pretty Little Liars, Law and Order. He's been nominated for an Emmy and a couple of Edgars. And this book has actually been optioned for film by Appian Way and Cartel Pictures with Leonardo DiCaprio attached as producer. It's a fantastic story, and the buzz on this book has been insane. I mean, he has just been just the darling this in the last couple of months of Bookstagram and Goodreads and every little book blog that, and a lot of the big ones. You just can't believe the excitement around this book. So we are, of course, thrilled because it's always nice to go into a second printing, a month and a half after the book comes out. But Matt Whitten, super nice guy. It's a phenomenal book. And he got just a ton of big name blurbs: Lee Child, Lisa Gardner, Lee Goldberg, Meg Gardner, Steve Barry, Holly Overton, Dp Lyle. So we're thrilled about this book. If you're interested in looking at a review copy, I still have it up on NetGalley and Edelweiss, and you are welcome to do that. And I'll send you guys information after the presentation. All right, moving on to our next title. We have Shadow Music by Helene Mario, who is a best-selling author. This is a really compelling story of loss, of vengeance, of courage, of love. It's about a classical pianist named Maggie O'Shea, and she joins forces with a nun to find a missing journalist and a Van Gogh that has been lost for decades. And we have the past and the present colliding as they are trying to sort of outrun and outsmart three ruthless Russians who are intent on finding the Van Gogh themselves, and of course, eliminating Maggie. Helene Mario is a beautiful writer. This is the third book in the Maggie O'Shea mystery series, which combines music and mystery, and it's just a really beautifully written story. All right, moving on to our next title. We have The OC by Dp Lyle. I love this series. If you are a fan of Carl Hyson, Janet Ivanovich, you will definitely love this Jake Longley thriller series. This is the fifth book in the series, but it does work really well as a standalone. Dp Lyle is actually a forensic pathologist in real life, and so he adds a lot of really wonderful detail into his novels. But he is also a real life consultant for a lot of other novelists and screenwriters, as well as a number of television shows. And he is just a fantastic writer. He's really funny, really, really funny. So in the story, the OC, Jake Longley, who is a former baseball player, he is just hoping for a few weeks of fun with Nicole in Orange County, going to hang out in the sun, get a tan by the pool. But Nicole's friend and local TV reporter Megan Weatherly has picked up an anonymous celebrity stalker, and this gets more and more serious as the harassment starts to intensify. And suddenly the sunshine isn't so friendly and warm anymore. And so Jake and Nicole and a few others in the gang are trying to find out who this stalker is, and the clock is ticking. If Dp Lyle's name sounds familiar, it's because he is an Edgar McCavity and Benjamin Franklin award-winning author of not only fiction, but also nonfiction books. And again, The OC is the fifth in the best-selling Jake Longley thriller series. All right, moving on to our next title. Murder at Graysbridge by Andrea Carter. I love this series. If you are a fan of Louise Penny, Lisa Gardner, and Agatha Christie, you will love, love, love this Inishewen mystery series. It takes place in Ireland. It's really got such a wonderful sense of place. And that's because the author, like the character, is a former attorney, barrister in Ireland, and she really knows her stuff. Wonderful, wonderful sense of place in these stories. In Murder at Graysbridge, the solicitor Benedicta, otherwise known as Ben O'Keefe, is excited to attend the wedding of her assistant Leah at this gorgeous and newly restored Graysbridge hotel with its private beach and beautiful pier and fancy, fancy lobby. And the festivities are brutally cut short with the deaths of two hotel guests as Ben finds herself embroiled in a real country house murder mystery where all the guests are suspects. And of course, a deadly conspiracy is unfolding. Again, Andrea Carter is an Irish lawyer turned crime writer. This is actually the fourth in her Inishewen mystery series. It's also being adapted for a TV crime series with the BBC. And these novels are set on the remote Inishewen Peninsula in County Donegal, featuring inquisitive solicitor Benedicta O'Keefe. Andrea actually lives in Dublin with her husband, but she is very familiar with the area. And if you like a strong sense of place, this is a really wonderfully atmospheric story. All right, moving on. Last Redemption. Okay, this is our lead title of the year, Last Redemption by Matt Coyle. Publishers Weekly just gave this book a starred review. They raved, contemporary hard-boiled PI novels don't get any better than this. And that is the honest truth. This is one of my favorite series, probably my favorite series, actually. The Rick Cahill PI crime series. And I think it's because Matt Coyle is such an extraordinary writer. He's an Anthony winner, Seamus award-winning author, has been a finalist for everything. I think just won the Lefty last year. This year he was awarded the Best Mystery Writer in San Diego award. And so he really has won, almost every award in mysteries that there is. Michael Connolly said Matt Coyle is on top of his game, and that is the absolute truth. What I love about this series, and this book in particular, is that Matt Coyle just continues to evolve this character. It's not just the same story with kind of different bad guys. He really evolves, and I think it's just a testament to what a good writer Matt Coyle is. At the beginning of this story, Rick Cahill's best friend Moira asked him to spy on her son Luke, and this is because Luke has broken a restraining order, and what we think is a simple surveillance ends up exploding into greed, deceit, and murder. Luke goes missing. Rick finds himself steeped in this high-stake fraudulent pharmaceutical research scheme, and Rick is trying to find Luke, but it's possible that that will not happen before Luke or Rick become the next victim. This is a fantastic, fantastic story. If you don't read any other book I'm telling you about today, you definitely want to read this one. You will absolutely love it. So that's Last Redemption from Matt Coyle. And again, if you would like a galley of any of these books, just let me know. You can find this one on NetGalley and Edelweiss. All right, moving on to our next title, Headshot by Otho Eskin. Love this series. This is the second in the Marco Zorn series. Otho Eskin, the author, is actually an attorney, and he's a former member of the U.S. Foreign Service, which gives his books such a fantastic international flair. And boy, this guy knows Washington, D.C. just inside and out, and that you really feel it on every page. So in Headshot, DC homicide detective Marco Zorn has just survived an assassination attempt, and he finds himself assigned to protect the beautiful Prime Minister of Montenegro, which is not a simple assignment because a lot of people want to kill this lady. And so international politics, personal vendettas collide as Zorn digs deep into his portfolio of weapons, some not so legal, to stop the killers. Really awesome book. You'll really enjoy this one. All right, next we have Treachery. Oh, sorry, I think we moved one forward. That's okay. So next we have The Sinister, which is by David Putnam. David Putnam is a real life cop. In his career in law enforcement, he has worked in narcotics, violent crimes, criminal intelligence, SWAT, internal affairs, you name it. The Sinister is an incredible book. It features ex-cop, ex-con Bruno Johnson and his wife Marie as they prepare to flee home to Costa Rica after a run-in with a brutal motorcycle gang and the death of the son that Bruno never knew he had. And they find themselves pulled back into the LA underworld because a friend of Bruno's, who happens to be the FBI deputy director, his granddaughter has been kidnapped, and all legitimate efforts to find her have failed. This is, again, a phenomenal story. You really feel the grittiness of Los Angeles, and in particular Compton, and it's the 9th in the Bruno Johnson series, and you definitely don't want to miss it. So that is my last title today, The Sinister by David Putnam. Again, this is a wonderful, wonderful series. It's actually my mother's favorite series, which I always say when I do these presentations. She loves David Putnam and is always anxiously awaiting his next book. So thank you guys so much for your time today. I really appreciate you all being here. And again, thank you to Booklist for having us. Thank you so much to Donna and everybody on the team.
Thank you, Lisa. That was wonderful. Thanks for ending our program on such a high note. A big thank you to all of today's wonderful panelists. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Not yet a subscriber? Please join us. Pair the print reading experience with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com and lock in print, online, digital, and archive access by taking advantage of this special webinar offer to get Booklist for only $75. And patron-friendly, librarian-approved, and free with a Booklist subscription. I am so happy to announce the Booklist Reader, Booklist's new digital-only magazine highlighting diverse readers' advisory recommendations for all ages. Booklist Reader is here to see and share the latest issue, which is currently freely available to all. Visit booklistonline.com/reader-issues. We're very proud of Booklist Reader. We'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and our sponsors, Severn House, Penguin Random House Library Marketing, Dundurn Press, ECW Press, and Oceanview Publishing. This concludes today's webinar. Stay well, everyone. See you next time.